Alright guys, in today's video we have some pretty interesting PlayStation 5 related information to go over, surprise surprise, and we have two things we're going to be discussing in this video. The first has to do with a insider, and I use that term extremely loosely here because I don't know if this person is actually an insider. I have no idea what their track record is. I don't know how credible they are. I haven't been following them that long, but we have discussed them in the past on the channel. So as we go further into the future and Sony does start talking more about the PlayStation 5 when we get official information, we are going to decide for ourselves and find out who is actually credible, who has been telling the truth, and who has just been making things up this entire time. That is going to be very, very obvious once we get the official information. And so I am willing to give people the benefit of the doubt on both sides of the coin because there's just so much information going around that you don't know who's telling the truth and who isn't. But all I'm trying to do is just present the information and give my thoughts on it, and that's what we're going to do today. It comes from Titix once again, where he talks about the specifications of the PlayStation 5 in comparison to the Xbox Series. On top of that, we are also going to take a little bit of time here to go over a recent study that was conducted that apparently shows that PlayStation fans are the most loyal. So that should make for an interesting conversation as well. But before going any further, if you think you're going to enjoy the video or you just enjoy the content in general and you appreciate all the coverage here that we've been doing for PlayStation, be sure to hit the like button. It really helps the videos out. It's the easiest way for you guys to let me know you do enjoy the content and you want more of it. And hit the subscribe button as well if you haven't done that already. But looking here at this tweet he put out, he said that the CPU inside of the PlayStation 5 is equal to the CPU that will be in the Xbox Series. So in that area, they're pretty much going to be the same. He says the GPU inside the PlayStation 5 will be less than what is in the Xbox Series. However, the difference will be less than a teraflop, so they're going to be very close to one another. He goes on to say that the RAM inside of the PlayStation 5 will be greater than that will be in the Xbox Series in terms of both bandwidth and size. The SSD for the PlayStation 5 will also be better than the Xbox Series in both speed and size. And overall, performance on the PlayStation 5 will be greater than that of the Xbox Series. And he goes on to say, this is what info I have gathered over the last few weeks. Final dev kits for the PS5 are out. And that's all he says. Now, a lot of people are very much not happy with what Titix is saying here and making it seem as though he has no credibility, he's just telling lies and all this stuff. And, you know, it's understandable. I feel like anybody who's making these type of claims, it's really easy to just look at them and be like, you're just making this up. This is just wishful thinking, especially people who have shown that they prefer PlayStation over the competition. And so I can understand that. And I'm not sitting here saying that this is truth, that we should believe this, because here's the truth in my opinion. You should not buy into anything, regardless of how great it may sound to you. It's just like every time we go over these massive leaks where you can clearly tell that a lot of it is wishful thinking. It's meant for entertainment purposes only, and in my opinion, just to kind of, you know, just to entertain the idea of like, what if this is true, right? Just like that Tommy Fisher individual that we discussed, where he pretty much said the exact same thing that we're seeing here. And this is where I feel like we do have to pay attention to where there is smoke. There's usually a fire, but right now there's smoke all over the place. And the fire could be anywhere. We don't know where. And that's where things get extremely confusing and you don't really know what to believe or who to believe. And so a lot of people just end up saying, you know what, I'm not listening to any of this. I'm just going to wait for official confirmation. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I will say again that once we get official information from Sony, it's going to make a lot of people look really, really good or really, really bad. A lot of people are putting their credibility on the line, and it is going to be interesting. I'll tell you this, I will be going back to a certain extent to see, you know, with a lot of people who are saying things, you know, who is correct and who is not. We've you know, been discussing this for quite some time, and all I want to say is that, you know, as a PlayStation fan, yeah, I would love for this to be the case, right? Like, it doesn't matter to me if the PlayStation is better than the next Xbox. It really doesn't matter in terms of my overall enjoyment. However, it will be pretty comical, in my opinion, if this somehow does end up being the case, where when it's all said and done and we have the final specifications for both consoles, the PlayStation 5 is somehow outperforming the Xbox Series overall. And that's going to make a lot of Xbox fans look a certain way. Just like if it was the other way around, it's going to make a lot of PlayStation fans look a certain way. And so this is why I don't bother sitting here saying I'm going to buy into this 100%, because what I think it's ultimately going to come down to is, and this is this is how I've always felt, right? And I'm just basically interested to see if I'm completely off the mark here, which I could be. I'm willing to say that. I don't have inside information. I don't have inside sources. I don't have people feeding me information. I know as much as anybody else does, but I've always been of the mindset that these consoles are going to be very, very close to one another, and the difference is going to be negligible and very minimal, and it's ultimately going to come down to possibly how the first-party studios choose to really utilize everything, and I feel like that's maybe where Sony could have a distinct advantage, where we know how talented their first-party studios are. That's not to say that Microsoft doesn't have talent, because they certainly do, but there's no denying that some things that these developers inside of these Sony studios that they're able to achieve, it's amazing, and you don't really see many other studios doing that. So to me, I think that's what it's going to come down to. But I will tell you, man, like, it's sounding really awesome to me what these next gen consoles are going to be capable of, and that's the point I really want to focus on here, is that while it is interesting to entertain the notion that the PlayStation 5 is going to end up outperforming the Xbox Series, or be, I don't want to say more powerful, because it doesn't seem like that's really going to be the case, because in terms of power, it seems like they're going to be very close to one another. But if somehow Sony managed to find a way to make the PlayStation 5 just have this performance level that's just, something that people were not expecting, it's going to make for some really, really fun and interesting conversation. Just like if it's not. I mean, the truth is, once we get this official information, it's going to make for interesting conversation regardless of which way it goes. I think at this point, it's just Sony's been so silent, and we've been seeing leak after leak after rumor after inside source, supposed inside sources saying this and saying that. It's just like it's becoming a little bit torturous here, and I understand that, and I feel that as well. I think people sometimes forget that even though I'm making this content and I'm discussing it, I am in the same boat as all of you. I just can't wait for Sony to give us that date and give us the information, and it's going to be really great, regardless of what ends up happening, right? Like, even if the PlayStation does end up being 9.2 T-flops and that past leak was completely correct, it doesn't matter. It's not going to, dampen my excitement. It's just at this point, we want to know what's the truth and what's not. So there it is. That's what Titix has to say on the matter. Sounds very, very similar to what that Tommy Fisher individual recently had to say. And hopefully we will know very soon what is the truth and what is not. But to finish off this video, I want to go over this study that apparently was conducted that claims PlayStation fans are the most loyal. It says best SEO companies held a survey of 1,008 people, going over all types of brands and products in order to determine which ones have the most faithful fan base. When it comes to gaming platforms, PlayStation is way out in the lead with 40.7% of participants claiming loyalty to Sony's line of consoles. Xbox is second with 31%, and Nintendo, perhaps surprisingly, is a close third with 30.4%. The survey claims that 1 in 3 people are planning to buy the PS5, while 1 in 4 are looking to get the Xbox Series. However, 8% of participants said they plan to purchase both. It's an interesting statistic. Although the sample of just 1,000 people might not be the most accurate, it does seem there's a trend in PlayStation's favor. However, when it comes to the fans, it seems that Sony's are the most dedicated to the cause. So yeah, I think that this is interesting. Again, it's only out of like about 1,000 people, so it's really not that telling. But I mean, the data is interesting to look at, and I can tell you this, and I'm just going to be real. Ever since I decided to embrace PlayStation, there have been a lot of people who've come at me saying that I did it just for views and for clicks and for all these superficial reasons, and it has nothing to do with gaming and having a passion for gaming. And I find it funny when people say that, because they say these things to me as if I somehow had that magic crystal ball where I was able to see and predict the future, where I knew that if I were to go play PlayStation and then talk about PlayStation and be enthusiastic about it, that I would get more views on my channel and I would get a bigger following and all these things. I had no idea. I really didn't. I did it because I wanted to, because honestly, I was losing my passion for gaming. The more I just decided to stick with Xbox and only Xbox, I was like, this just isn't what I want. And so my last ditch thing here was like, let me go try out PlayStation. It's been many years since I've been on the PlayStation platform or really took it seriously and really got into it. And so that's what I decided to do. And it was one of the best things I ever did, because I've always been passionate about gaming. And there haven't been many times in my life where I felt like I was really falling out of gaming and it was becoming less important, but that's what was happening. And experiencing some of these games that I missed out on and would have missed out on if I didn't take that chance, not only did it rejuvenate like my gaming life, where I'm like, this is great, I'm actually having a great time playing these games, a much better time than I expected, and I'm having all these new experiences and more to look forward to. But on my channel, it worked out really well on top of that. And I can confirm that PlayStation fans, a lot of the ones that, support me here on the channel, they're very, very passionate. And that passion does breed a certain sense of loyalty where, like, there's a reason why. It's not because it's a plastic box, right? It's because of the gaming experiences that these studios and these developers have provided. That's not to say that these other companies like Microsoft and Nintendo don't do that. Of course they do that. But there's just been something so good about what Sony has done this generation specifically, and the past generations as well, but specifically with some of these games we've gotten more recently in the recent years. It just seems to have really sparked something in a lot of gamers. Were like, you know what? This is amazing. And I feel that and I understand that. And this is why, like, now when I look at Microsoft, I'm like, Microsoft, Xbox, please do what PlayStation is doing, or at least try to replicate that to the best extent you can, because they're doing some really awesome things. Microsoft is doing some really awesome things as well that Sony should be trying to replicate. But in terms of just games, I mean, it's been something special. So I had to go on that little rant here at the end, but that's going to do it for the video, guys. Let me know your thoughts about this down in the comments below. I will be interested to see what you guys have to say. Be sure to leave the video a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and haven't already. Hit the bell notification icon so you never miss an upload, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.